Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be doing a deep dive today
Uh-huh.
on something that I find just absolutely mind-blowing. We're talking about bird migration.
Absolutely.
And I think we can all agree that,
Yeah.
at least I think I can speak for everybody when I say that, like, birds are cool,
Yeah, they're pretty neat.
but, how much do we really know about them?
Right.
And I think bird migration is one of those things where it's like,
It's just like how do they do that?
yeah, how do they do that?
Yes.
And so, obviously you're the expert here.
Well, I've spent some time looking into this, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into it and learn all the things that I don't know, because I think this is a really cool topic, and I'm sure our listeners are gonna love this too.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the to a journey.
Yeah.
And birds certainly go on some incredible journeys.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we can all, look outside our window and we can see them, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is something that's accessible to everybody.
It's
You don't have to go to the Amazon or something to experience this.
right.
So I think that makes it even more special, is that it's like right in our backyards.
Absolutely. You can see it just about anywhere you go. There's, some habitat. Even in a city park, you might see some migrants coming through.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with kind of like the basics.
Sure.
What is bird migration?
Well, it's the seasonal movement of birds from one place to another.
Okay.
And it can be, relatively short distances, or it can be these incredible long-haul flights that you alluded to.
Right. And
We're talking thousands of miles
Yeah.
across continents, across oceans.
it's unbelievable.
It is really remarkable.
And it happens every year.
Every year. It's a seasonal cycle.
Okay.
And it's driven by a lot of different factors, but the primary one is really resource availability.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, why do they do it? What is what's driving them to do this?
Well, you got to think about it from a bird's perspective,
Okay.
right? They need food, they need shelter, and they need to be able to reproduce.
Okay.
And so in many parts of the world, those things are seasonal,
Okay.
right? So, take the Arctic as an example.
Okay.
In the summertime, there's an abundance of insects,
Okay.
long daylight hours,
Right.
perfect conditions for breeding.
Okay.
But then winter comes,
Right.
and everything freezes over.
Okay.
There's no food.
Yeah. No buts.
It's too cold to survive.
Right. Right.
So the birds that breed in the Arctic, they have to go somewhere else.
They got to bounce.
They got to bounce. Exactly.
And so is that kind of like the general pattern? Like they go to like a colder region?
Well, it depends on the species. But generally speaking, yeah, birds will breed in areas where there's more resources available during the breeding season,
Okay.
and then they'll move to areas where those resources are available during the non-breeding season.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess they're chasing summer, right? It's like their summer never ends.
That's a good way to put
They're
it.
just they're going from summer to summer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which, I mean, that sounds pretty good.
I know, right?
But I mean, okay, so they have to do that, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that really gets me, like, boggles my mind is the navigation.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get lost going to the grocery store.
Right.
Like, I need Google Maps
Yeah.
to get anywhere,
Yeah.
know. But these birds, they don't have Google Maps.
No GPS. Yeah.
So how are they doing this? Like, how do they know where to go?
Well, it's one of the great mysteries of the natural world.
Okay.
And we don't fully understand it, but we know that birds use a variety of cues to navigate.
Okay.
And they're really good at it.
Yeah.
They're way better navigators than we are.
For sure.
So some of the cues that we know that they use include the sun, the stars,
Okay.
the Earth's magnetic field,
Okay.
landmark.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit.
Sure.
The sun, like, how do they use the sun to navigate?
Well, they have what's called a sun compass,
Okay.
and it's essentially an internal clock
Okay.
that allows them to know what direction they're going based on the position of the sun in the sky.
Okay. So even though the sun's moving, they can still use it like a compass.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty amazing.
It is. And we know this because scientists have done experiments where they've manipulated the position of the sun. And they've shown that birds will actually change their direction of travel
Okay.
based on the altered position of the sun.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it is.
So they're really like locked onto the sun.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but what happens like at night?
Well, at night, they use the stars,
Okay.
and they have what's called a star compass,
Okay.
which is very similar to the sun compass.
Okay.
But instead of using the sun, they use the stars.
Okay. So they're literally looking at the stars and being like, okay, I got to go that way.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they can recognize specific constellations,
Okay.
and they can use those constellations to orient themselves.
That's unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
I have trouble finding the Big Dipper,
Right?
and they're like using whole constellations.
Yeah, they're amazing navigators.
That's incredible.
It is.
Okay, so they got the sun, they got the stars,
Yeah.
but what about like, cloudy nights
Right.
or even, days?
Yeah.
Like what if it's overcast and they can't see anything?
Well, that's where the Earth's magnetic field comes in.
Okay.
And so birds have the ability to sense the Earth's magnetic field,
Okay.
and they can use that to navigate as well.
So they have like a built-in compass.
They do, yeah. It's like a built-in compass.
That's awesome.
And that's really helpful because, as you mentioned, like sometimes the sun's not visible, the stars aren't visible.
Right, right.
But the Earth's magnetic field is always there.
It's always there.
So it's a really reliable cue for them.
Okay, so how do they sense the magnetic field? Like, do they have like, I don't know,
Right.
like little I don't know, pieces of metal in their brain or something?
Well, that's a great question. And scientists are still trying to figure out exactly how they do it.
Okay.
But there are a couple of leading theories.
Okay.
One theory is that they have specialized cells in their eyes that are sensitive to magnetic fields.
So they can actually like see the magnetic field.
That's the idea, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that they can actually perceive it visually.
That's insane.
It is.
Okay, so it's like a whole other sense that we don't even have.
Exactly.
Like we can't even imagine what that would be like.
No, it's hard to fathom.
Yeah, it's really wild. Okay, so they've got like a sun compass, a star compass, a magnetic compass.
Uh-huh.
What was the other one?
Landmarks.
Landmarks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Well, so birds also use visual landmarks to navigate.
Okay.
So things like mountains, coastlines, rivers,
Okay.
even, patterns of vegetation
Okay.
can help them to orient themselves and to find their way.
Because it's like they have a map in their brain.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
Okay, so they've got all these different tools
Mhm.
that they're using to navigate.
Right.
But are they born knowing how to do all this?
Well, it's a combination of instinct and learning.
Okay.
So some of it is hardwired.
Okay.
They're born with certain predispositions.
Yep.
But a lot of it is also learned.
Okay.
And so young birds will often learn their migration routes by following older, more experienced birds.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an apprenticeship.
Right. So they're flying along with like their parents or other birds in the flock,
Exactly. Yeah.
and they're learning the ropes. Like, okay, this is where we stop.
Right.
This is where we go. Okay.
Yeah. This is how we find our role.
This is how we do it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
But you were talking earlier about how like it's not all like sunshine and rainbows. Like migration's tough.
That is. It is.
Like these birds they're facing a lot of challenges.
Yeah, there are real risks involved.
Yeah.
They're flying long distances. They're often doing it at night. They're exhausted. They're hungry.
Right.
And there are a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
So some of the main threats that they face include predators, weather,
Okay.
And human impacts.
Okay. So let's break those down.
Sure.
So predators, like what kind of predators are we talking about?
Well, it depends on where the birds are migrating.
All right.
Okay, but it could be anything from hawks and falcons to snakes,
Okay.
to cats.
Yeah.
Even other birds
Wow.
can be predators of migrating birds.
So it's like it's a constant like danger zone.
It is, yeah. It's a gauntlet that they have to run.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then weather, you mentioned weather. So
Yeah.
so what are some of the weather challenges that they face?
Well, storms are a big one.
Okay.
Strong winds
Right.
can blow them off, of course.
Yeah.
Rain can make it difficult to fly.
Right.
And extreme temperatures
Right.
can be deadly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then human impacts. So what are some of the ways that humans are impacting bird migration?
Well, a lot of ways, unfortunately.
Okay.
But habitat loss is a big one.
Okay.
So as we develop more and more land,
Right.
we're destroying the habitats that birds rely on.
Right.
For feeding and for resting.
Yeah, and for breeding.
And
Right?
for breeding, yeah.
Yeah.
Light pollution is another big one.
Okay.
So all the artificial lights that we have at night
Right.
can disorient birds.
Okay.
And make it difficult for them to navigate.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Okay.
And then climate change is another one.
Okay.
So as the climate changes, it's affecting the timing of migration.
Okay.
And it's also affecting the availability of resources.
So they may get to a place,
Right.
and it's not like the right time.
Right. It's not what they expect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow, that's really sad.
it is. It is.
But it's also pretty amazing that like despite all these challenges,
Yeah,
these birds are still like doing it.
they are. They are.
Like they're still migrating.
Yeah, they're incredibly resilient.
Yeah, yeah, it's really a testament to like their strength and their determination.
It is.
So just to kind of recap, like what have we learned? Like what are the main takeaways here?
Well, we've learned that birds migrate for survival.
Wow.
They're following resources.
Yeah.
They're moving from areas where resources are scarce to areas where resources are more abundant.
Right.
And they use a variety of cues to navigate, including the sun, the stars, the Earth's magnetic field, and landmarks.
Yeah, and they're facing a lot of challenges along the way.
They are.
But they're still doing it.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They're amazing.
Yeah,
And it's really something to marvel at.
it is.
So I guess like the big question is like what can we do?
Right.
Like what can we do to help them?
Well, I think the most important thing is awareness.
Okay.
Yeah. just being aware of the challenges that birds face.
Okay.
And the ways that we can help.
Okay.
So things like, reducing our impact on their habitats,
Okay.
reducing light pollution,
Okay.
supporting conservation efforts.
Okay.
Those are all things that we can do to help.
Yeah. I think that's really important is just to like be mindful
Yeah.
of the fact that like these creatures are sharing the planet with us, and we need to do our part to help them.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a great place to end it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
No, that's my pleasure.
This was fascinating.
Chad, you enjoyed it.
I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did too.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.